presentation. Next. Okay, so some of the topics that we'll cover today, and just as a precursor, I should mention, this very much is an introductory workshop for those who may be business curious or those who currently operate a small business here in Denver and are curious about the resources and tools for expansion purposes. So the topics that we'll cover today, you'll learn a little bit more about my branch of city government, which again is Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. The acronym there you'll see is DEDO. You'll learn more about some of the tools that we offer internally, in addition to learning about local resources that are aimed to support entrepreneurs. And then, as Maria mentioned, we will conclude with some question and answer. So keep a notepad maybe next to you and jot down any questions that you may have. And I'm sure there will be time at the end for that. Okay, so this slide really gives you kind of a broader overview as far as what does the Denver Economic Development and Opportunity do? Who are we and what do we do? So our vision is we're leading an inclusive and innovative economy for all Denver residents, businesses, and neighborhoods. And then there on the right of the slide, you can see the various departments that comprise DEDO. So I'm a member of business development, but we also work very closely with our colleagues in global business development, in addition to workforce development. Then we have the Division of Small Business Opportunity. We have the Neighborhood Equity and Stabilization Program. And last of all, we have the Executive Office. And all of these groups work very closely together to carry out our vision. So throughout this presentation, you're going to learn a lot more about what several of these groups do, particularly as it pertains to business startup and business growth. Okay, so I'm going to start just by giving you an overview. If you're somebody who's interested in starting a business, maybe you're business curious, you've had an idea and you're interested in taking it to that next level. This slide provides really just a strong framework in terms of kind of what's comprised in when you start a business, what city regulatory entities need to be contacted. One of the great resources, and I would be happy to perhaps share this with Maria after the call, on the city's website, we have a fantastic business startup checklist. It's actually offered in 7 different languages. And that checklist provides a lot more detail than the content you see here in front of you. It's a really excellent kind of a blueprint for getting your idea off the ground. And this is something that I would be happy to email to you as well. So I just want to mention that within Denver Economic Development and Opportunities website, there's a fantastic startup guide. Okay, I just want to quickly review the 8 items that you see before you here. You know, we meet individually with anyone who's interested in starting a business, and we provide a lot of guidance and advising around the topics that you see here in front of you. Business planning, critically important if you're looking to start a business. And that's something that the team and I can go over in certainly in more depth than what I'll talk about here today. But you know, it's much like building a house. You know, you want to ensure that you have solid foundation. You want to ensure that that you're building on solid ground. So we have access to a wide array of templates and resources to help you kind of put your ideas on paper and kind of test run some of your strategies. You know, business plans are going to look a whole lot different from one entity to the next, you know, kind of based on the complexity or the nature of your business. So while one entrepreneur, may have a 2-page business plan, another may have a 50-page business plan. And that's something too that our advising team really talks through and can offer some strategic guidance in much more detail. So again, the two, plan your business, create the business plan, go hand in hand there. Again, if you're looking to start a business, you're going to need to register your business name with the Colorado Secretary of State. And it's there too that you'll need to indicate your legal structure. So we have a lot of resources to help entrepreneurs, maybe through that discernment process of, maybe you're considering, gee, am I a sole proprietor? Am I an LLC? What are the pros and cons type of thing? So we can help offer some guidance around that topic. And some of these topics I'm going to run through pretty quickly here, because zoning and permitting, that's going to look very different from one business to the next. A lot of businesses get started in one's basement or in one's garage. And there isn't a lot of regulation when that ends up being the case. And we always suggest, gee, if you have a day job, but you're interested in kind of a side gig or a business enterprise, that's a great time to kind of explore business ownership when you have that kind of that safety net or that cash cushion of employment. Certainly if you're looking to, say, open up a restaurant, excuse me, zoning and permitting is really going to come into play and be heavily regulated with regards to a brick and mortar restaurant. If we look at the list there on the right side, determining the requirements with regards to business licensing and so forth, again, that's going to look very different from one business to the next. The city issues, gosh, I'm going to guess about 30 different business licenses, many of which fall under kind of the food and beverage category. But we can help navigate whether or not you need to apply for a business license with the city or a business license with the state, or potentially both. One example, a hair salon or a barber shop is an example. They don't need to apply for a business license at the city level, but they would at the state level. So that's just one quick example of an industry that Denver doesn't regulate, but the state does. Okay, next, registering with the local tax authorities. So whether it be city, state, federal, you want to be sure, again, that you're meeting all 3 layers requirements. And again, we can help you navigate that process. If your business or your startup is in need of financing, we have a lot of resources. So that's another topic that we'll go into more in this presentation, but we certainly can offer guidance around. And then last of all, just know if you're looking to start a business and you plan to add employees, to prepare yourself for what those responsibilities look like. Workers' compensation, paying unemployment insurance, things of that nature that we'll touch on briefly throughout the presentation. Okay. That was a lot of information, I know. So now you have a little breather here with some visuals. These photos, I'll just mention, start your business, next steps and resources. These photos are from the Commons on Champa. And Maria mentioned my work at the Commons on Champa in the introduction. The Commons on Champa was founded back in 2015. So it's 5+ years in operation. Right now, everything's virtual, but it's a really fantastic kind of hub for entrepreneurship. Pre-COVID, we offered co-working space, reserved office suites for lease, which are still available. But now all of the programming has gone virtual. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Commons on Champa later on in my presentation. Okay, super. So this slide highlights some of our local partners. If you are looking to start a business and you know, it feels overwhelming. Sometimes it can feel lonely and just a lot of information to absorb and digest all at once. Um, my team at the city, we are available for one-on-one appointments to really talk you through certainly the city's regulatory requirements, but we also have a very strong relationship with the organizations that you see here in front of you. Um, Oftentimes when I'm sitting down with first-time entrepreneurs, I suggest and recommend, any number of startup boot camps. Again, much like building a house, you really want to continue building on that solid foundation and acquire the resources and materials that you need so that you can grow and be successful. Um, so Denver, we're fortunate enough to live in a community that is home to so many different nonprofit organizations that support the business community. So the list that you'll see there on your left under startup boot camps, all of these organizations offer, it may be an 8-week program, it may be a 10-week program, it may be a 12-week program, but they all offer curriculum-based instruction for, really they target first-time entrepreneurs, and they provide kind of the framework of, kind of back-end business operations, in addition to strategic connections locally with maybe industry mentors or introductions to financial entities. When we sit down with entrepreneurs and we learn more about your interest or your endeavor, that's when we can make a much more concerted recommendation with regards to which of these startup programs you may be best suited for. Because again, some of them have kind of industry preferences, or I don't think preferences is the right word, added supports for specific industries. Some involve more of a time commitment than others, and the monetary registration fee varies as well. So we can very much make those recommendations. A really good website that I'd like to point out that's listed under additional resources is titled 5-Minute Classes. Jennifer Croft is the founder of 5-Minute Classes. She also is an instructor at the Commons on Champa, which is where I have an office, but now everything's virtual. And 5-Minute Classes. She does just that in very digestible PowerPoints on her website. You will see, oh gosh, the core components to writing a business plan, to maybe search engine optimization tips and tricks. So nonetheless, it's a really fantastic resource. There on the right hand of the slide, lending institutions. We work with a wide array of lending institutions who are very first-time entrepreneur, very pro small business owner, and will lend money without having that 2 years of positive cash flow and record keeping that that the big banks, the Wells Fargos and so on and so forth, typically require. So if you anticipate that at some point in time you may need access to capital for your business enterprise, we can make some really strategic recommendations on that front. And then last of all, mentoring and consulting. There are so many organizations locally here that do just that. And I won't go through each and every one of these, but I think I would like to highlight the Denver Public Library in particular. The Denver Public Library has a program called Biz Boost, and it's open to anyone. Appointments can be made online, and it's really beneficial if you are kind of in that research and development stage. Maybe you have an idea, but you want to research the competition and determine marketplace saturation. Um, Maybe you've already built your enterprise and you're looking for consumer data. Who might be a targeted outreach list for you based on their purchasing habits, things of that nature. They do an awful lot, and they're free and just a really great resource in our community. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm putting on my hat with the city here. I'm going to just very briefly review some of the business tools that we have internally through Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. So I mentioned earlier the startup checklist that's on our website. It's a great kind of launching pad for starting a business and gaining a broader sense of the regulatory requirements. Next, one-on-one business advising. So one of my final slides, it's kind of the teaser at the end. One of my final slides has my contact information, but there's a whole team of us who make themselves available for one-on-one appointments. So business advising being another tool, industry expertise, and that's a pretty broad list. So whether it be retail and hospitality, to the outdoor industry, outdoor rec, to professional services. We have a pretty broad bandwidth there. Small business lending. So the city actually has 2 small business lending programs that I'm going to talk a little bit more about. Denver has 2 tax credit incentive programs. So we want you to be here in the city and county of Denver. We want you to be successful and to grow. Denver has workforce development resources. So if at some point in time your company is looking to hire employees, it may be a great partnership to work with workforce development, as there are grant monies available for that purpose. Next, we have a certification specifically for minority and woman-owned firms, and it really benefits companies that are interested in doing business with Denver. The next couple, I don't really think I'll touch on. They're not so applicable for this particular presentation. But again, we work with businesses across the board in terms of their size and in terms of kind of their global footprint. Okay, so I'm going to talk just a little bit about obtaining financing and the process. So there certainly may be reasons why you need to secure financing in order to get your business off the ground. Those would be considered startup expenses. And examples may include, if you're looking for real estate, whether you plan to purchase or to lease. Maybe you're looking to purchase equipment. Maybe you're looking to purchase an inventory. Certainly marketing, sales, promotion, that may be another expense item that you're outsourcing. Perhaps payroll expenses if you are in need of employees right out of the gate. So there are a lot of reasons, for that particular need, startup expenses. It's very common. Sources of capital, just to kind of review this list. Oftentimes entrepreneurs will utilize their personal savings and their own kind of cash reservoir. They may borrow from friends and family. Next, there are a wide array of community lending organizations that were featured in one of the previous slides, who very much offer traditional business loans from, I would say, $1,000 on up to $350,000. Those are, again, interest-bearing loans. They also oftentimes will offer lines of credit. Next, government-sponsored programs, and I'll talk about one that the city offers later on in this presentation. Investors, banks, venture capital firms, etc. And then take a look at that remember section here. You know, lenders are going to look at the 4 C's. So this is just a good way to prepare yourself if you are anticipating that you'll be applying for outside capital. They're going to look at your credit score as one factor. They're going to look at cash flow. So again, if they lend you, let's say $25,000, they want to see cash flow coming in so that you'll repay them, so that you're a good investment. Collateral oftentimes is another factor that comes into play. Let's say you would go in default of that $25,000 business loan. What can they use as collateral? Do you own your own car? Do you own more than one vehicle? Do you own your own home? Just things of that nature. And then last of all, they're oftentimes going to look at character. You know, they're going to want to see how much you personally truly are invested in this idea. You know, have you been working on it for a long time? Are you taking classes in the community? You know, basically they just want to see that you've really put some thought into this and it isn't just a fly-by-night idea that was concocted over the weekend. I had another thought and it just slipped my mind. I think the obtaining financing really also, I just want to highlight the importance of a business plan. You know, this is going to be critically important if you're planning to apply for outside financing, to ensure that the business plan is ready to go, you know, and that it highlights you well and what you plan to do. One of my colleagues, his name is Rick Snyder. He manages our city loan programs. Business plan review is his area of expertise. So when I mentioned that I'm a part of a team and we make ourselves available for one-on-one appointments, one of his areas of expertise is business plan review. So he's a great resource. Okay, just to speak very briefly, so the city does have 2 unique loan programs. One is a microloan program, and basically we're looking at any business here in the city and county of Denver can apply, and the loan is for $5,000 and it doesn't exceed $50,000. It is a competitive process. So as I mentioned, the business has to be here in the city and county of Denver. Growth industries. Growth industries are often prioritized. Enterprises that may bring jobs to the economy, another consideration, but it's very open-ended. So the other thing that I'll mention is neighborhood and location could be a factor. Because our monies are fairly limited, we want to invest in areas throughout the city of Denver that may have less economic vitality to them. Okay, so I just want to stress that. But really, those monies within the microloan program can be used for, you know, marketing expenses, purchasing equipment, purchasing an inventory, very open-ended. Okay, then next we have our revolving loan fund program, and that's kind of the city's flagship program. So we have a program where projects, again, here in the city and county of Denver, if there's a demonstrated gap, so what that means is a small business owner, an entrepreneur, has secured, I'm going to say 70 to 75% of the necessary capital to get their idea off the ground, but there's still that demonstrated gap or shortfall. Or it could be, maybe it's a second location. So if you're somebody who currently owns and operates a business and you're interested in opening a second location, that allocation of money, that funding stream applies to both. So whether you're a true startup, you have an idea, or you're looking for that second location, so long as you've, again, secured 70 to 75% of the required capital, it may be a project that the city will look at. And when I talk or touch on eligibility criteria, again, has to be city and county of Denver. So unfortunately, if you're in Littleton or Arvada or Aurora, you're not going to be eligible for either of those two funding programs. With the revolving loan fund program, we absolutely do prioritize neighborhoods that could use the economic investment. So think Northeast Denver, Northeast Park Hill, Montbello, Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, a pretty significant portion of West Denver, the Westwood neighborhood. And I know I'm forgetting some, but you kind of get a sense there. So those are going to be projects that are given priority. We also prioritize projects that create jobs. So that's another thing to keep in mind. When I talk about the 70%, so let's just say you're somebody who has an idea and maybe you want to start a drive-through coffee shop, just as an example. Maybe the project costs, and I'm just going to use $100,000 so I don't have to think too hard about the math. Let's say to purchase the structure, to purchase all the equipment on the inside, maybe you anticipate hiring 1 or 2 part-time employees. And let's say, again, just to get everything off the ground, 100,000 is the dollar amount. You crunch the numbers and that's the dollar amount you've come up with. In order to receive funding from the city, you will have had to have demonstrated that you've secured $70,000 to $75,000 for the espresso drive-through coffee enterprise. And that can come from, all different sources. Maybe you've utilized your savings, you've borrowed from family members. Maybe you've received one of those small business loans from a lender who was featured on the previous slide. I'll just use the Colorado Enterprise Fund as one example. If you can demonstrate that you've secured 70 to 75% of the required capital and there's still that gap, that would be a project that the city might look at. Okay, I think enough said there. The Denver Capital Matrix, that's an online tool on the city's website that you can Google that basically serves as a directory of all things finance. And I'll be honest with you, it probably hasn't been updated for about a year, but I think most of these financial institutions are long-standing entities. They don't come and go too quickly. But nonetheless, it's a directory of sorts that, again, provides the reader a kind of a framework of all things capital. Next, very, very briefly, I'll mention that another arm to the city involves certifying firms who have that particular interest in government contracting. So that's another presentation all in itself, and monthly presentations about that very topic occur monthly. So definitely reach out to me if you would like to learn more about, is certification right for me? Because again, it's not a small process. So you really want to have your eyes open and know for certain that the government contracting route is something you really want to pursue. Okay, so workforce development, I mentioned, I work alongside, a good handful of colleagues who are all very dedicated to workforce development. And they work both with job seekers as well as with employers. So I think really the main point I want to make on this slide is that if you are an existing small business owner here on the call, or if you're in planning your entrepreneurial endeavor, just know that Denver has resources available to help employers recruit and train staff. One program in particular is called on-the-job training. And if a company has full-time and permanent positions available, and full-time, I believe, is defined as 32 hours of work per week or greater, so long as the recruitment is done in partnership with the city has access to the unemployment database. So over 30, I think I last heard over 35,000 registered users. So it's a pretty robust pool. So long as the company finds a match, and again, the city helps to strategically find resumes and skill sets of the qualities you're looking for. If a match is to be had, the city will reimburse up to $6,000 per new hire while that new hire is in their training period. So it's a fantastic resource should you be at that point. Okay, I threw this slide in here and I don't know how much I really want to talk about it on this call, but I mentioned another significant division within Denver Economic Development and Opportunity is the Division of Small Business Opportunity. And this too really creates a pathway for small, woman-owned, minority-owned firms who have an interest in government contracting work to get opportunities and to grow. So it's a fantastic program. A lot of the opportunities fall within the construction realm or within the professional services realm that supports construction. So just to give you a couple of examples, let's say Denver is building a new rec center or maybe a new library branch. A portion of the work in that construction, in that build out, a portion of that work is set aside for firms that are certified with the city. So think commercial painters, electricians, plumbers, I think would all find value and opportunities to bid on these opportunities. Another example may be a landscape architect. Okay, so the exterior work and so on and so forth. Not to say that those are exclusively the opportunities, but I think that just gives you kind of a taste of what kind of the majority looks like there. The other thing I'll mention is that there are a lot of opportunities to bid on work being done out at the airport, or even opportunities within the airport. So there's also a certification for airport concessionaires, if I'm not mistaken. But again, the Division of Small Business Opportunity offers a monthly program once a month. So if this is information that you really want to take to the next level, I can get that for you. Okay, so here on this slide are two of the tax credit programs that I referenced earlier. So Denver has a program called the Business Investment Program. And any business here in the city and county of Denver who can demonstrate growth over the preceding 12 months should be able to take advantage of this program. It was a mayoral initiative, a Mayor Hancock initiative, meant to be attainable. So probably the easiest criteria to meet is if a business can demonstrate that they've increased by 10% in employment over the preceding 12 months. Again, there should be a little juice that one can squeeze out of this program. Anytime I'm talking to a business who is in growth mode, maybe they're purchasing equipment or receiving investment capital, or they're hiring, and they're here in the city and county of Denver, I share exactly what's in front of you here, but I always recommend, that a business owner share this information with his or her accountant or CPA or somebody who does that bookkeeping, just so they can be sure to really maximize this program's potential. Certainly the greater the size, if you're a team of one, you're working in your home office, probably isn't a whole lot of juice to be squeezed out of this program. It may not even be worth your time completing the application, but it's good to be aware that these programs exist. And I mentioned applications. So applications typically go out in the spring, meaning Denver issues a press release, and we always hope the various channels pick up the press release to help spread the word. But yeah, typically in the spring around April or May, that's when applications go out, and they're typically due in early July, just to give you a sense. And then the second tax credit program I'll mention here is the Enterprise Zone. So the Enterprise Zone is actually a statewide incentive program, and certain geographies within the state of Colorado are designated as enterprise zones. So there are areas in particular that the state wants to see revitalized, regenerated. It's an incentive to the business community to locate in those areas. Because this is a statewide tool, Denver has a lot of good information on our website, but what I really like is on the state's website, you can plug in any address and it will determine right away, or it will kick back, it'll tell you right away whether or not your location falls within an enterprise zone. So it's kind of nice to know in real time, particularly if you're an entrepreneur that's considering locations throughout the community. Maybe you're working with a real estate broker. I always suggest put this tool in front of your broker, because all things being equal, it may make more sense to locate in the enterprise zone location, where you can, again, take advantage of. There are 10 unique tax credits, and I won't go through them now on the call, but I would say two of probably the more popular credits are, there's an investment tax credit. So, and even home-based offices can take advantage of this program. So let's say here in my home office, I've invested in a lot of equipment, computers, tables, printers, chairs, et cetera, et cetera. If I'm cash flow positive, I can claim a total of 3% off of the initial purchase price of all that equipment that I just mentioned. So 3% is 3% at the end of the day. What else did I want to mention about that? Certainly, if it's a restaurant, that's purchasing large appliances and so on and so forth, you're going to really be able to see kind of the benefits of the enterprise zone. So that investment tax credit is probably the most widely utilized. And then next, I would say it's probably the job creation tax credit. So if your business does indeed fall within one of the designated geographies, and let's say you have one full-time employee, that one-time full employee is an $1,100 credit. So the larger the entity, the larger the operation, the more you will benefit from both of these incentive programs. And I have a colleague who manages both of these, very much available for one-on-one consultation if you would like to dig a bit deeper in terms of how these programs could benefit your business. I can connect you to her. Okay, so now we'll talk just a little bit about the advising resources that our department offers. Okay, so I mentioned, actually, before we dive into the advising resources, this slide is somewhat of a comprehensive overview in terms of, as you're building your enterprise, as you're growing your small business, these are all of the professionals who most likely can offer some strategic advice to help you along and perhaps get you to that next level. Certainly, a lot of these folks come with a fee, and we absolutely recognize that that you may be bootstrapping this and doing it all on your own. And I think that's where the city and our advisory team comes into play with regards to connecting you to free resources or low cost resources throughout the community. But I'll just mention here, so assembling your team, attorney. So with regards to legal structure, that may, be a real helpful expert to have on hand. Maybe employment contracts are another topic of discussion. Perhaps even bringing contract employees into full-time status, another. Partnership agreements, if you're going into business with someone, having that small business attorney expertise could certainly be helpful on many occasions. And we work with a lot of the local bar associations who provide pro bono work. And one organization that we work with very closely and we support is the Mikasa Resource Center. And they offer a monthly business legal night. That's fantastic. Okay, next, the accounting and the bookkeeping. So that too may be just another service that, as the business grows, as it becomes more complex, you may consider outsourcing that service if it's not something you know or enjoy, because you really want to be sure that you're up and up on your books. The banker or the lender may be somebody you need to reach out to. An insurance agent, based on the nature of your business, what type of added business insurance may come into play. Is bonding a topic of consideration? It's always good to talk to people in the industry. So if you're looking to start, let's say that espresso coffee drive-through, boy, as many coffee shops or business owners that you can talk to, the better. Talk to as many people as you can just to gain their knowledge and expertise in the industry. And they may talk about the pitfalls to avoid or what they would have done differently. So always seek those people out as much as possible. Nowadays, more than ever, a marketing specialist. Everything certainly has gone to this virtual world, and companies more and more are relying on social media and e-platforms and so on and so forth to get the word out about their services and products. So that too may be an area that you consider outsourcing. Then, of course, when you're assembling your team, consider the department that I'm a part of, because again, there's a whole team of us available for consultation and advising. And then last of all, I want to mention another gem in our community is the Small Business Development Center. So they are connected to the Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce. They're affiliated with the Metro Chamber. The Small Business Development Center has a wide array of consultants, many of whom are former business owners themselves and now want to give back to the community and make themselves available for free consultation. But they definitely have very technical, they have areas of expertise that are very technical in nature. So maybe it's putting together your financials or your projections, or maybe it's the government contracting bit and you really want to get deep into the application do's and don'ts, or maybe you want to think bigger than the city with regards to government contracting. The state, the feds, they really go deep with business questions and so on and so forth. So they're a great resource, and they too offer a lot of fantastic programs and classes. Some are free of charge, some come with the monetary investment. One of their really awesome foundational classes is titled The Leading Edge. And I forget if it's a 10-week or 12-week program, but it's very much geared toward first-time entrepreneurs, and through a series of workshops and guest speakers, a whole lot of curriculum. You leave there with just a really solid understanding of how you can kind of take your business to that next level. So they're a great resource. Next slide. Okay, so here you can see a lot of information, but I want to talk a little bit more about the Commons on Champa. So the city of Denver, specifically Denver Economic Development and Opportunity, co-founded the Commons back in 2015. So again, 5 years old now. And while we're in kind of still operating all virtual, there are really some fantastic resources that you can take advantage of. There are many classes and programs. One of the classes that I'll mention is titled Will It Fly? It's a 2.5-hour workshop that really dedicates some time to your idea and kind of the potential it has for doing well in this marketplace. And I'll leave it at that. The facilitator that we have for the Will It Fly workshop is Jennifer Croft. And I mentioned her earlier in the presentation. She is the founder of 5-minute classes. So she has been instructing entrepreneurs for a very long time. She's wonderful. So if you're still in that kind of business curious, business discernment, the Will It Fly workshop is a great place to start. Let's say you've been working on your business idea for maybe 6 to 9 months, and you're really looking for maybe a course or a community or structure to kind of help you kind of move things along. Co-Starters is another program that's offered through the Commons. It's a 10-week business incubator program. They come together on Wednesday evenings, and the application and more information can be found online, thecommons.co. Those are just 2 programs that I want to mention. I could keep going, but I would encourage you, when you're on the Commons on Champa's website, to look under the events tab, just to see kind of what's coming up, what's taking place. We bring in all different types of subject matter experts who host free kind of mentoring sessions, free informational sessions, workshops, webinars. And right now I'm thinking legal. I know we have Meyer Law coming in at one point in time. I'd have to look at the calendar to tell you when. Tomorrow there's a workshop on search engine optimization. You know, how to get your business name at the top of Google. So definitely give that some exploring, because most of the offerings are free of charge and open to the public. In normal times, you know, when we're not on COVID restrictions, the Commons has wonderful free co-working space that's available Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. There are also office suites and desk spaces for lease on the 2nd floor. So if you're in a position right now and you're interested in having some office space in the community or leasing a desk, typically we look at 6 to 12 month agreements. Great resource. I should have mentioned the Commons on Champa is located at 1245 Champa Street. So it's just across the street from the Auraria campus to one direction, and more or less across the street from the Colorado Convention Center on the other. Anyway, it's a really cool location. The other resource that is offered through the Commons on Champa are one-on-one business advising sessions with a wide array of local organizations. And you can see kind of the beginning of the list there on the right-hand side of your screen. I'll mention the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. They too are a gem in our community. So if you're somebody, let's say you're an inventor and you have questions about, patenting your invention, or, maybe you are developing an app and you have questions about logo trademark or things of that nature. They're a really good resource, very specific if you happen to fall within kind of their wheelhouse. But that gives you just kind of a quick sense of who we are and what we do. I'm not sure if it's on my next slide. Maria, do you want to advance me to that next slide? Okay, this is how you can connect with us. Basically, you can reach out to me directly and I can talk with you further to really ensure you're being matched with the right advisor. Or you can go on to the Commons website, which is thecommons.co. And if you click on the Programs and Resources tab, and then scroll down and click DEDO Advisory Hours, the calendar will pull up and you'll be able to secure an appointment. So that's another way to do it if you want to do it just online. So basically, we make ourselves available Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. All appointments are taking place either by phone or video at this time. And we work with all different types of entrepreneurs and business owners, from those who have an idea and are business curious and aren't really sure where to start or are looking for resources for that next step, on up to, the successful coffee shop who may be looking to open up that second location, and so on and so forth. So that just kind of gives you a broad overview of Denver economic development and opportunity and some of the many partners that we work with. So I didn't realize I'd been talking this long. We better just cut me off and open it up for Q&A at this point.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for sharing everything with us. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to share it in the chat or just raise your hand and I will unmute you, whichever you prefer.